all in on the big dog this week. Let's get a little bit more negative, though, Freedman. We do have our RB faller as Rhamondre Stevenson versus the Seahawks, which might be confusing for some because the man did go out there in week 1 and have a pretty awesome performance. That said, probably shouldn't be expecting the Patriots to be playing with that sort of lead all too often.
This is great. So he is one of Dwain's fallers. He's one of my low-key Freedman's favorites. And if you look at the rankings, we have him both at number 18, which is like the perfect way of thinking about Stevenson, where he's a little bit of a Rorschach. Like, you can look at him and kind of like get to wherever you want to get. Like, I will give the positive case for Stevenson. And since he's one of Dwain's fallers, Dwain can give the negative case. Like, obviously we know what he did last week. He looked great. He looked a little bit like his, 2022 version, where he had over 1,400 yards and 6 touchdowns, 88 targets, 210 carries. I think it's a situation where even though the Seahawks looked pretty good on defense last week, we should remember that they were going against Bo Nix. Like, I don't want to put too much weight on what happened in one game under a new head coach, Mike McDonald. Like, yes, the Seahawks, they could be much better on defense than they were last year, but I just want to make sure that they do it again against someone like Stevenson before I think that they can actually stop the run at will. I think in this game, the Patriots, coming off of a big win on the road, they're now at home. They are going to use Stevenson as much as they possibly can. And the offensive line was, I can't say it was like even that good last week because they still weren't getting a lot of push. Stevenson was doing so much of the work on his own, but I think even if the Patriots fall behind, they're going to run the ball as much as they possibly can. It would be kind of a surprise if Stevenson had any less than 14, 15 carries in this game, a few targets on top of that. And like that on its own could be enough to get him there. And he's got the upside for more, just given the volume, the potential efficiency that he could have, and the fact that the Seahawks maybe aren't as good as they looked last week.
Shots fired, Dwain. How do you respond?
Yeah, I just look at it and I say it's the Patriots. And it is just an interesting way of Freedman and I both coming at it, and we end up with a rank that's very similar. So when I say downgrade, my point is, guys, don't get your hopes up that you're getting 20 fantasy points per game out of Rhamondre Stevenson. The utilization is certainly there. He dominated. But we also have to remember that Antonio Gibson came up with an injury late last week to his hip, so he wasn't playing at 100%. I think his snaps will be closer to the 30-35% range rather than the 20% what we saw last weekend. Maybe that won't happen this week. Maybe it will be completely the Rhamondre Stevenson show. But let's remember, we've got KJ Osborne and Tyquan Thornton running out here as starting wide receivers. We've got Hunter Henry, an old, slow white dude, playing tight end, not adding any explosive plays. We've got Jacoby Brissett sitting back there throwing passes still. So this is a Patriots offense that when we look at it, we look at the team totals this week, it's one of the lowest on the slate. I am with Freedman. I don't know that the Seahawks defense is good or not. They did hold down the Broncos in week 1, but last year they were one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. So they still need to prove it whenever we think about, what Seattle's done. So for me with Stevenson, I think of him, even though he's like coming in at RB 18 for me, I think of him really like the archetype of him. It's a low end running back too. Right? That's what he is. He's a guy that's going to get volume. He's in a really bad offense. It could either be 20 touches for 10 fantasy points, but at least he did show last week it could also be 20 opportunities giving you 20 fantasy points. So the truth, as they like to say, Ian, falls somewhere in the middle.
Did look good out there in his own, individual performance. 118 of his 120 rushing yards actually came after contact. Also had a week high 10 missed tackles forced per PFF. But again, sadly, not expecting too many scoring opportunities. Only the Broncos, Panthers, and Raiders are implied to score fewer points than the Patriots. Go ahead, Dwain.
I'm probably burying the lead. The lead here is Rhamondre Stevenson's a sell high candidate. Like, I want to get out from under the Patriots offense. And if you have someone in your league that values Rhamondre as someone that could be a 20-point per game back, you're trading him away. If you have someone that values him, like the way Freedman and I are essentially talking about him, we're coming from different angles, landing in the same spot. Well, if you need your running back, you just keep him. But if someone is actually excited about his week 1 performance, I would trade Rhamondre Stevenson in a heartbeat.
Another guy who certainly is coming off a strong week 1 performance, but I don't know if